Hey there, welcome to Professor Pearl, a YouTube channel about knitting and other crafts. I'm Nicole, and this is episode 21. So you can find me as Prof Pearl on Instagram and Ravelry. And there's a Ravelry group and email and show notes all in this description bar below. If you enjoy any of the knitting content today, don't forget to like and subscribe. So today is such a special episode because I posted my very first video for this channel July 31st of 2021. So this is the 1 year anniversary or podiversary of this YouTube channel, and it's so exciting for so many reasons. So I'm a little nostalgic today, and I decided to wear the same t-shirt that I wore in my very first episode, which is a Knotty Lamb t-shirt. Knotty Lamb is a yarn store here in the Pacific Northwest, in Oregon, where I record this. They're located, I think the town's called Forest Grove. And so it's driving distance to me, and they have a beautiful curated store of hand-dyed yarn. And I actually have an interview with the owner on this channel. And so I wore this on my first episode just because it's one of my favorite t-shirts. It's super soft. And I'm also wearing different earrings than I wore in my first podcast, but I recently got these at a lavender festival, and they are handmade, not by me. And I think the maker is called 18th Avenue. I will link their Instagram below. But I'm not wearing any hand knits because it's super hot here in Oregon. And I'm not recording on my porch. I'm back to the cozy chair because it is really warm here. Yeah, so 1 year, and the very first episode or video I put out on the channel, the title was called Be My Knitting Friend, because at that time I was feeling very lonely and wanting knitting friends. And I was also really nervous about posting the first video on YouTube. And this channel such a blessing. I will hop into finished objects and whips soon, but I just need to share my gratitude first for this channel and the people that show up and watch and comment and have become my friends. And for the new people too, thanks for taking the time here. So I made a top 3, I wrote it in my notebook, of my top 3 moments and things that happened this year. And so my number one, the most epic of my top 3, is the friends and community. I started this because I wanted friends and community, and I just so enjoy engaging in Instagram messages, YouTube comments, but also I've made real life friends. Some of them I've met physically, some of them I've only met virtually on Zoom, but I'm just so grateful that I'm not alone with my knitting, and I have knitting friends, and I have nothing but this channel to thank for it. The second is it's so kind of ironic because it's you're making content on a YouTube channel, but by making content, it's participating in a conversation with other content, really. And so from that, you're consuming content in a different way. And so from that, I feel like I've been just inspired and motivated by so many other podcasters and also makers on Instagram. And mainly it's been inspiring for me to try new things. And so over this past year of having this YouTube channel, I test knit for the first time. Before this channel, I had never test knit, and I love test knitting, and there's so much more to test knitting than just helping the designer. You make friends, you are learning new things, and it's just, I'm loving test knitting. And I don't even know how many sweaters I've test knit over the past year, but I went from nothing to test knitting multiple sweaters. And Also, I always like had this like kind of secret dream to try and like publish a pattern and put it out in like the world. And I did that. And I feel like it was because of this podcast and being inspired by other people who are designing and publishing patterns, and then feeling supported by the community here. And so I tried designing a sock pattern for the first time, the Selena socks, and putting that out in the world. And it was an incredible experience, and I hope to do it again. Okay. And the third epic, my top 3, is fun. I've just had so much fun. Like, a lot of times people will ask, like, what's your hobby? And I used to say things like, you know, playing piano, knitting, but now I feel like YouTube is like knitting and YouTube. I really enjoy making these videos and hosting Makealongs, and I think one of the reasons why is because the Makealongs have been so fun. And the first Makealong this channel was a Love Note, Love Knitalong, and it blew my mind. And I also really enjoyed books and berets. I hadn't made like hats for a long time, and so now I've got like, you know, it's hot in summer now, but it's going to be fall, and now I have like, you know, curated some hats and berets to wear as I enter the fall and winter seasons. And I was reading more, which is exciting. So anyway, just thank you so much. And because I really want to thank you, I just wanted to put together a little giveaway package, and it's just something that's, none of the things have been donated that I'm going to do for this giveaway. They're just from me as a thank you. So, okay, the giveaway package will be 3 things. And the first is a little gratitude journal that I purchased from Erin Condren. I'm a big paper planner person. This is not a planner, this is just a notebook, but it is from Erin Condren, and I use their life planner and the teacher planner. And anyway, so I also use their journals, and one of the journals I use is a gratitude journal, and it gives you little prompts, and you can just write a single sentence or a couple sentences, and it's really fun. So, and this, it's hard to tell in here, but this is like a foil. Anyway, it's a little notebook, super cute. I also have a segment on the channel called Sip Sip Knit. So in honor of that, I wanted to, if you're a longtime viewer, you know I love David's tea and the fun teas. So I wanted to share one of my favorite teas. It's not the peanut butter cup one. Sadly, I don't even have that for myself right now. But it is another one of my favorites called Chocolate Chip Cookie. It's a black tea with a chocolate chip cookie flavor. It's delicious. Love it with some cream. Good hot or iced. So these 2 things, and I love stitch markers and progress keepers, and so that will be part of this. And I actually have been making them, so I will show that in the finished objects section, but there will be also some glittery stitch markers or progress keepers, like kind of whatever you prefer, as part of this that I've made. And I'll show that in the finished objects. So the prompt for this giveaway will just be, I would love to know how long you've been watching. If you're new, it's just out of curiosity, just wondering like how long you've been watching or following this podcast. And also, like, what are you knitting now? Just so I can get to know you a little bit more. And if you don't want to answer that, like how long you've been watching or what you're knitting or making, any comment will be below, will be entered for the giveaway. And next time I record, which I do about every 2 weeks, I will pick from the comments. So the tea, the gratitude journal, and some stitch markers I'm really excited about. All right, I'm also going to announce the winners for the Books and Beanies Makealong that was co-hosted with the We Share Needles podcast, which is Maddie and Kristen. I'm going to do that after finished objects and whips because I feel like I've been kind of rambling for a while. All right, I have 2 finished objects. One is knitting and one is a non-knitting finished object, which I kind of hinted at for the giveaway. So for my first finished object, the only knitted one, it's a pair of socks, little shorty socks. Oops. And maybe I'll take one off so you can see the stitch pattern on it. These are totally done and blocked. Look at that, so cute. So, some details on this. I knit these with the Haya Flexi Flips. And I think I mentioned last podcast that I didn't enjoy them. They made my fingers bleed. They were super sharp. And I had just kind of came to the conclusion, I don't think I'm ever knitting with Haya Flexi Flips again. When I cut in the heels, and I cut in the heels at Matilda's swim lessons. I have a 4-year-old Matilda, and I cut these heels in at swim lessons, and it was the easiest a cut in heel has ever gone for me. And I think that was for a multitude of reasons, but one of the reasons is the Haya Flexi Flips are so sharp that it just went through those stitches where you're gonna cut in super easy. So and then when you knit your little cut in heel, it's just such a little amount of knitting. I kind of came to the conclusion that, oh, I will not get rid of these Haya Flexi Flips and use them for cut in heels. Just as I came to this realization that I can just use the Flexi Flips for cut in heels only, I lost the Flexi Flips set comes in 3 of them, comes with 3 needles, and I lost one of the needles at the splash pad of Matilda. And it was kind of chaotic, because she wanted to play with me, so I was running in and out of the splash pad and trying to knit on the side and then running, and I lost one. And Kyle, my husband, he was like, you should go back and look in the grass. And I was like, I should have, but at this point in time, it's been almost a week and a half, and anyway, so I might need to buy new Haya Flexi Flips. So, okay, if I want to use them for cut in heels, and I think I do. So anyways, that's shorty socks, cut in heel. The yarn here, which I haven't talked about, is Zebra Yarns, which is a self-striping yarn. Beautifully done, very consistent stripes. On the side here, you can see all of my stripes are exactly, for my gauge, exactly 4 stitches. All of the white stripes, all the pink stripes. And I think that's so cool that it turned out so perfectly. Usually when I knit self-striping, hand-dyed self-striping sock yarn, it is just a little bit off the stripes. So at the toe, the toe doesn't always just match perfectly, but here you can see they match perfectly because they're so consistent, the stripes. And I just did an old shale stitch right here on the front, which is a very common stitch pattern, and it's beautiful, I think. I think it looks really good on here. And I wanted to do shorty socks because I actually have 1 pair of shorty socks that are hand knit, and I wear them a lot, so I was thinking that would be really nice. And one thing that happened with these is they did turn out bigger than I wanted, and that is my fault. Here's where the blocker is, and you can see it's a little bit bigger, and they're just a little bit big for my feet. It's fine, I'll still wear them. And I should have probably cut in the heel maybe 1 or 2 stripes here, but that's what you get when you cut in heels at swim lessons and are a little haphazard with your measuring tape. So that hasn't happened before. It was a user error on my end, measuring. So anyway, I just love these, and since they're shorty socks, I have so much of this yarn left that I can do another pair, and I think I will. I love pink. Pink's my favorite color, so I'm really excited. I was looking at my notes because I was I felt like there was something else I wanted to say. Yes, So last year, so much summer of 2021, it was like sock summer. And this is my first pair of socks, a shorty pair for summer sock camp. My first and only pair for summer sock camp. So, and I haven't even entered like in the cabin. Like I haven't even taken a picture and entered this yet. So maybe this will be my motivation. Yeah. I'm also participating in the Yarnia sock bingo, and these actually, you can be strategic with your sock bingo and like get a lot of like spaces. So like shorty socks, self-striping, there's a lace pattern, there's a cut and heel, like self-striping, like. And then Skank Cocaine has a podcast that I follow, and she's doing a knit-along that's like summer stripes knit-along. If you go on my Instagram, you can see I've got like the hashtag perfectly when I use these for that. And I think end of this month, it's still the Stocks and Socks knit-along from Knit Zach and his podcast. So I'm definitely like quadruple dipping here for Makealongs, and I think that's the way to do it. Right, so I said for the giveaway for the 1 year anniversary, I was going to include stitch markers that I make. So over the past 2 weeks, I've been experimenting and playing with resin. I have never made anything resin, but I've wanted to for a while, and I was thinking it would be fun to make progress keepers and stitch markers for giveaways for the various make-alongs I have going on and celebrations. So I had a lot of fun, and I have more to show, but they're not quite ready yet, and I will show those next episode. But so, okay. I've been waiting for some O-rings to come in the mail, so I don't have like the progress keeper like attached yet, but I do have like split rings. And so Matilda, that was good enough for Matilda, so she loved the resin. Now I did the first part because it's chemicals, and so, but when it was dry, I let her pop it out of the mold, and anyway, she ended up taking a lot of them, but these ones are hers that I'm showing. She made necklaces. So I had her help me pop out of the mold and sand the back of them. Look at that. So that's so fun. This is just me playing with glitter, but it's just making my heart really happy. For years, like pre-YouTube, like all that, like for years, if people were like, Nicole, what's your favorite color? I would joke around and say glitter. So this is making my glitter heart sing, and yeah, it's like pink glittery. So I made a bunch of those, and then Matilda promptly took a lot of them. And so I just put a split ring on there so that she could put them, she's got like a little book bag, she could put them on her zipper. She wanted necklaces. She has 2 necklaces here. This is yarn from her petite souffle that she wanted as a necklace. So yeah, like, and these look big, so you might be thinking, gosh, that would be a really big progress keeper, but resin's super light, like it's super light. And so on one of my whips I'll show you, I made this into a stitch marker, and it's huge, but it's like hugely delightful as a stitch marker. And so those are pink ones. So I guess I'm waiting for my O-rings are supposed to come in the mail tomorrow. And so I will put those on, and then like the progress keeper latch. But I thought I would show you the ones Matilda did not take and said I could keep. I'll show you a few of them. So here's this one, which is like pink and glittery. Now see how I'd make this like a set for the giveaway. So, and even though this isn't like a finished object for me, the resin is, because like just putting the O-ring and the little last clasp on is not gonna be a big deal. This one reminds me of Frozen. I don't know how it'll show up here in the camera. So this is not doing it justice here. It's actually like a light blue iridescent So it like reminds me of the movie Frozen. So then with this bright yellow and pink, I was thinking this would be with an epic set. So that will be a set, but I have a few others too, which I will keep for other giveaways and just make that. So I've been keeping them in this little cork tray that I have. And it's just very satisfying when it dries and you pop it out and you sand it. I'm just very much enjoying the resin craft making. And I will show more, because that was my first experimenting, which was just straight up me experimenting with glitter and dye. And so this week, they'll be ready for me to pop out of the mold tonight. And so Matilda likes to do that part. So I'm like, gonna wait to do that with her. I experimented with the glitter, the dye, and then also like stickers, like putting stickers inside that are like super cute. Anyway, so I'm having fun and that's all that counts, right? So, and I think that they'll be a really fun to include in some prize packages. Okay, so that's my finished objects. Even though I only have one finished object, which is, you know, kind of a small pair of socks, I feel like I knit a ton. And so I have a lot of progress on 3 webs. If I was a monogamous knitter and only knit one thing, I would have maybe a sweater done, because I did a lot of knitting just spread across 3 things. All 3 of my things match and coordinate though, like a capsule wardrobe, which I'll show you, and maybe you'll agree or disagree, but okay. The reason I bought these earrings at the Lavender Festival recently, well, my town had a lavender festival, and there was a bunch of, I mean, this isn't lavender, but there's like all these makers there selling beautiful things, is because of this sweater that's in here. Can we see this? This is gonna be amazing. So, I am test knitting the Lenox pullover for Anna from the Bluebird Box Knits. And I really wanted to have it done for my 1-year Podiversary, but it is what it is. I'm joyfully knitting it, just I'm not knitting it wildly fast, but then I'm like, maybe I am, because I've made a lot of progress. All right. This is a bottom-up construction. And there's a lot of sweaters that are bottom up that you still like knit the sleeves later, but this is bottom up, sleeves first. Not only is it bottom up, sleeves first, it's bottom up, inside out construction. So that's, if you're a sweater nerd, you gotta try this at some point. Bottom up, inside out, right? Like, so my sleeves are done. If you watch prior episodes, you know I'm nervous about them being too long, but I'm gonna problem solve that. I'm gonna block them, measure before I attach. And I actually think I probably need to do that this week, because I'm almost done with the body. I'm like 4 inches away from attaching the sleeves. So this is inside out. So this is the iconic bubble stitch that we see kind of all over the internet. Stephen West used it. I've seen some socks with it. It's a beautiful stitch that I've never had the opportunity to do. But since you're knitting it inside out, Anna geniusly took the bubble stitch and used the inside out version of it. And wait till I show you the inside out part. But this is a textures, and I think I'm on a bubble stitch now, a bubble stitch row where you like make the bubble, and it's slow for me. And I think so, like, this doesn't look like a lot of knitting, but this was a lot of knitting for me. So that's my Charmed and Dangerous stitch marker, which is a sunny, I mean, how perfect for this yarn, which is a sun and a cloud. Yeah, so I think the last time I podcasted, I had got this done in 2 weeks. So you can see I did more than I did the prior week. And I love it. Like, oh, let me show you the inside of this. So the inside is what's going to be the outside of the sweater. I've never seen that. I've never seen anybody use the inside out of the bubble stitch, and it looks so cool. So cool. And I'm just imagining me wearing this while teaching, drinking my pumpkin spice latte, And when it starts to get gray and dreary here in the Pacific Northwest and rainy season, boom, I'm a ray of sunshine. And so that's why I was like, I'm just gonna be over the top with it and wear these earrings with it. It'll be so cool. So the yarn is from the Mouton Rouge Knittery. It was a custom dye, but still available, like you can get it. So there's it's a very high quality label here, and the colorway is called Make Lemonade. This is an organic superwash sport. I don't think I've mentioned that this is a sport weight pattern. And I feel like sport weight is like, if you look at like European designs, I feel like people outside the US have been using sport weight for a long time. But I would say like inside the United States, I feel like sport weight's making a comeback. Now, Anna is a Canadian designer, so I don't really know how people use sport weight in Canada, but I would say like in the US stores, there hasn't been like just a massive amount of sport weight, but I feel like you can see it coming more and more. And I can see like the love for it, especially for garments. It's like, you get sort of a sweater that's not like as thick as worsted, like, and is more reminiscent of a fingering weight sweater, but but you're knitting with a yarn that's thicker than fingering weight. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, did I mention this is a test knit? I'm test knitting this, and I don't think I'll have any problem with the deadline. The deadline is August 30th, and Anna, as a designer, gave a very generous amount of time for testing sweaters. I think it's the longest amount of time I've had to test a sweater, and I really appreciate that because I feel like I'm just enjoying it. I don't feel rushed at all. I just feel like I'm embracing and enjoying the process, which is really fun. So I may be the slowest test knitter, but I am very joyful about it. I would say a lot of the test knitters have knit it very quickly. I think maybe some are even on to their second one. And yeah, but even if you don't like the inside out factor, like maybe if you're like not digging this, I mean, I don't know how you can just love this, but if you're not digging it, this is pretty cool too. And so really you can wear it either way, which is so cool. So that's my first whip, and hopefully the next time I podcast, I will have sleeves attached. That would be amazing. So we're getting close. So I'm getting close to attaching the sleeves. Packed my sweater away and was ready to move on to the next whip, but I realized I forgot to show you that I call it procrastinating when I do something else instead of knitting. Like I should have been knitting on this like exclusively as a test knit, but I decided to with my resin, make a matching stitch marker for it. Now I don't have the O-rings as I said, so I just used a split ring, which is not everybody would like that, but okay, look at that. It like matches so perfectly. So I was playing with glitter too. This is very glittery in person. And so this looks huge, like it would be an inconvenience, but resin's so light that this is just like the lightest thing. So it's not bothersome at all. And the nice thing about this split ring is I was thinking maybe after this sweater knit is over, if I don't want to use this as a stitch marker anymore, I was thinking I could use it as a zipper pull on either this bag or a different one. Yeah, super fun. Another sweater that I'm knitting kind of slowly, but not because I don't love it. So this sweater is it's hard to tell because it's so dark, but this is the Summer Soufflé by Penrose Knits. Laura Penrose. And yeah, so this Progress Keeper is a little souffle from Tiddly Bakes. So cute. And that's where I was last time, so I'm right after where my ruffle will be. This kind of row you can see here is where the ruffle will go. And so I've knit a few inches on it. Basically, when I felt like I wanted a break from texture knitting, I would pop over here and knit on this. And this yarn is incredible. Did I have a label in here? Yes. This is Queensland Collection United, and it is a cotton and lamb's wool blend. Let's see here, does it say the percentage? 55% lamb's wool, 45% cotton, which makes it a very lightweight sweater, and the colorway is called J. And so this is gonna be so nice to have. And my goal for this podcast was simply to get to splitting for the sleeves. So the last time I showed it, which was up here, and now I've split for sleeves. So it's just easy stockinette knitting, and then the ribbing, and then sleeves and ruffle. And all that's very, well, actually the whole thing is actually pretty simple. And that's one of the things I wanted to share about this. Over the past 2 weeks, somebody in my professor life, like a fellow professor in a different department, is a new knitter. And she reached out to me and said she had a friend who was knitting a sweater for the first time and had some questions. And that friend reached out to me, and this sweater design that the first sweater this person was tackling was wildly complicated. It was like a sweater knit in pieces, texture, a unique construction, like so intense. And I think, you know what, how amazing that people are brave and curious and take on something like that. However, if you're watching this podcast, I would be curious to know if people watching this podcast like are not avid sweater knitters, or maybe they are, but if you are not an avid sweater knitter, or maybe you've never knit a sweater and you want to knit a sweater for the first time, let me know. But one of my pieces of advice I was thinking for a new sweater knitter is knit something that's not seamed, that you can try on as you go, and I would suggest a top-down sweater. So I was thinking about it, and I think that this sweater right here, the Summer Soufflé by Laura, would be an incredible first sweater to knit. And because the construction is very straightforward, and you can try it on the whole way. Get these cords here. These are pearl strings from Les Moutons Rouge Knittery. There's all kinds of cords like this, like pony beads on Amazon, barber cords. Lots of people sell these. Mine are the pearl strings. I really like them. They're kind of shiny and really long and size inclusive. And so anyway, you can try it on before you split for sleeves. As soon as you split for sleeves, you can try it on. Like, you can keep trying it on and see how you feel about it. And also, there will be no sewing on this. Like, when you are done knitting it, you are done. So there will be no seaming. It's knit in one piece. You can try it on. And the reason why I think it would be a fun first sweater too is that there is fun elements to it, like you're gonna add a ruffle to it. You're not knitting it in a fingering weight yarn, you're knitting it in a DK weight yarn, or a DK weight gauge at least. And if you haven't knit a sweater, I think I would recommend this one for your first sweater. Or the Love Note. As you know, I love the Love Note. But I think this might even be better than the Love Note, because the Love Note, the construction as it's written, starts off with a provisional cast on, which could be a little intimidating. And it has lace, which could be a little intimidating. I don't think it should be, but it could. And so anyway, I do think that this could be a very good first sweater. This is my first time knitting with a plant fiber, which I've said on the past couple of podcasts. And I don't know. I'm obsessed. I don't think I like plant fibers in general because a lot of them have hurt my hands, but this Queensland yarn is super budget friendly and is incredible. And I'm knitting this as part of a knit along on my channel and on Instagram and Ravelry called More Soufflé Please. I'll put the hashtag here for Instagram. There's also Ravelry Chatter and Finished Objects. And that ends on August 15th, and I would really like to finish this by August 15th as part of it. But even if I don't, like, I've knit a lot of soufflés, and like I'm still enjoying seeing everybody else's souffle, and this Makealong motivated me at least to start this. This is the only souffle I haven't made yet. So anyway, I'm just thrilled about this, and this will be an excellent practical top for me for work and teaching. Oops, I dropped a bunch of stitches. Oh, one thing I wanted to say is, if you're interested, if you're participating in the More Soufflé Please Knit Along, the first Tuesday of every month, we're still gonna have some Zoom sessions and for like a knit night. And so that information will be linked below and also in the Ravelry group and on Instagram if you follow me. So that's coming up like this, depending on when you're watching this. I think I was gonna say it's gonna be the next Tuesday, but it will be August 2nd. So if you're interested. So my last whip is a pair of socks. Yes, I'm saying a pair because I finished this sock a while ago, and I am notorious for just knitting a single sock and never knitting a second sock. After I finished this sock, I started these, and I thought, well, I'm on my way to never having a finished pair for these too, which was sad because I love this yarn. This is maybe my favorite colorway ever, which sounds wild to say, but it might be because pink is my favorite color, but I can't even handle this. Like, I can't. It's just too good. The yarn is Savvy Skeins, and the colorway is called Surfer Girl. And I love the colorway so much, I wanted it to just be a plain vanilla sock. So that's what this is. And it's in my favorite sort of heel situation, which is a heel flap and gusset with a slip stitch detail here. I just love this sock so much. So I knew, like, this can't languish. Like I have to start the second sock. So look at this. Since I last podcasted, I went from just having a single sock, and I think I cast on, but I hadn't knit anything, to all this. We've got a cuff, we've got a leg, we've got a heel flap and gusset, and we are on to the foot. So I just have the foot and toe left. This feels very hopeful to me that I might have a full pair here soon, which means I would have 2 pairs of socks for summer sock camp and sock bingo, which would be very exciting. So I think that I did not, usually when I finish a podcast, I think, like, what are my goals, the short-term goals? Like, what do I want to try to finish or do by next podcast? It's like how I kind of plan. Like, I got 2 weeks. What can I try and accomplish? And in my mind, I was thinking sweaters. But in reality, this was a lot of sock knitting for me that I wasn't expecting. And the reason why that happened is I just had so many activities with Matilda. She had swim lessons, dance lessons, she went to track camp, we were at splash pads, and in those environments, like, I don't get a ton of knitting done, because especially like track camp, I was like making sure she had water. I'll talk about this in personal section. She even like threw a javelin, so I was, close by her. So because of that, I knit, but I don't get like a lot of knitting done. Like in a 3-hour event at track camp, I might have gotten like 2 or 3 rows done. So it's very slow knitting, but like it's the perfect portable knitting. So I feel like while most of my joy, I was gonna say most of my joy is found in sweater knitting, but I love all knitting, I guess. sweaters and socks. But I do love sweater knitting so much, but I just feel like I will always also knit socks just because they are like, this at track camp is way more portable than my Linux. So one last thing I want to mention is I have mentioned that I love this yarn. And so I follow Savvy Skeins on Instagram. I've never had any sort of personal interaction with the dyer behind Savvy Skeins, like none at all, no DMs, anything. She probably doesn't even know that I podcast saying that I love her yarn. So what I want to say is, like, just go check her out. It seems like there's, like, on her Instagram, seems like there's like a little family emergency. There's a GoFundMe, and there's just, I don't know, if you can buy her yarn at a store, like, do that. If you feel compelled to check her out on Instagram and follow her and check out her GoFundMe, I think that could be special if you feel inclined to do that. Okay, it is time for me to share the winners for the Books and Beanies Makealong. So Maddie and Kristen from the We Share Needles podcast, the other half of the Books and Beanies Makealong, they are drawing 2 winners and I am drawing 2 winners. My understanding is they are picking 2 finished objects and donating prizes there, and I'm doing 2 works in progress, or it could be a finished object, or it could be a whip, just participation prizes, if you will. So I decided to draw 1 prize from the Instagram hashtag and 1 prize from the Ravelry hashtag. So in Ravelry, at this point of recording, there was 132 posts in the chatter, which included myself chatting too. So I thought I would do a random number generator and then look at that post. And then if it was something I commented on, pick the person above. And if not, it'll be just not me and I can give somebody a prize. And so I use the website random.org. A lot of people think they do things that are random that aren't random. This is just the math teacher in me. Like, when people say, I did this randomly, like, it's not necessarily true. Like, random is actually a mathematical phenomenon, which we can talk about, but do we want to talk about it? Let me know. But anyway, random.org is a website that I trust in terms of a random number generator. So anyway, I use random.org and I set the constraints between 1 and 132 and to generate integers between that. And then I was just going to pick the first number in that list, which is 115. So I went to, on Ravelry Chatter, I went to post 115, which is Nicely Knitting. So reach out to me, either email or on Ravelry. And yeah, so the picture, maybe I'll pop in the picture of Nicely Knitting here. It looks like a very cute hat, yellow, at Starbucks. And I think I've met Nicely Knitting. Let me click on their profile. Jana. I have met Jana at one of the Zoom nights, so that's really exciting. Jana, you won this hank of yarn, which is pink. I wanted to make sure that I donated something pink, so whoever gets this can think of me. And also I will include some of my progress keepers I'm making. So hopefully a pink one or something. I have a batch that's more peachy that might look better with this, but something that will look good with this skein. So, okay. The second drawing is going to come from Instagram. So I went to the hashtag Books and Beanies Mal, and there was 92 posts with that, and I decided to look, you can filter them different ways. So I decided to just, rather than doing it the top post, to filter by just most recent. And so the number that was randomly generated for that is 20. So then I went through and I counted till the 20th post. And that post is Endless Stitches by Sarah. And it's this really beautiful picture, hopefully I can include it, of like my favorite things. It's like an epic view with like hills, potentially mountains, and a Musselburgh hat, a beautiful stitch marker, and a coffee mug. Like, that is relaxation. And so I have chatted with Sarah before, so it's like really exciting to like know the people that are like, well, know them, but have chatted virtually with them. Sarah is a math professor as well, so this is so funny that this also happened randomly. And yeah, so Sarah won a bag from Stitching Plaza. Stitching Plaza donated a gorgeous bag. And so I think the agreement is that Georgiana from Stitching Plaza will just send you that bag directly. So what you need to do is just contact me with your information and I will share it with Georgiana from Stitching Plaza. So yeah, either of you can contact me, either Instagram messaging or Ravelry or email, whatever is easiest for you. And congratulations on winning. So I have some acquisitions that really fall in the like continuum of free and thrifty to like a luxury item, like just both ends of the continuum here. So last weekend I went and I knit with a physical knit group for the first time in a really long time. So my husband and I used to belong to this knit group that like met kind of regularly, like every Tuesday and every Sunday night a long time ago, like pre-pandemic, pre-child, like, well, not even when Matilda was a baby, we'd bring her. So it was a long time ago though, and we haven't been in a long time. And they were meeting in a park outside, and so we went in person, and it's been a very long time since I've knit in a group setting with people, and it was so exciting. As part of that knit group, they have like a table. They do this every time where you bring things that maybe you don't want anymore, and it's like a swap where you like can trade like a yarn or a pattern book or even books you're reading. And I didn't bring anything because I forgot about it. I forgot about that norm, but they still said I could take something from the table. And here's what was at the table. So this was free, gifted from somebody really nice. So this is from Knit Picks, and it is Brava Sport Weight, which is 273 yards, 100 grams. So I got one without a band. I don't know if bits of it have been used. I should weigh it. And then I got one with a band. And this is 100% acrylic, which I don't have hardly. I might have 2 100% acrylic skeins in my stash right now. And I just think it's like how life has worked out. So I don't really have a stash of acrylic. And this feels so soft, and this color is me. Like I just was just drawn to this color. It's like a neon peach. I feel like it's in a way, like I love pumpkins in fall, and so like in a way I can see this like being kind of a very bright fall version. If that makes any sense. But I also just love like neons, and so that's a very summer color too. I have no idea what I'm gonna make with this, but I just love it. Like I could totally see myself making a hat for myself out of this sport weight. It's so cool. So I could see that. But then I'm like, it's acrylic. This would be so good for like a children's accessory. Like, if you have any suggestions about sport weight acrylic, please comment below, because what do you do when you love it? I felt like, I was like, I don't need to bring more yarn into my home, but it was free and epic. So I don't know, I love it so much. Okay, so apparently the time before the knit group met, I wasn't there. There was like these double point needles in the center of the table. And this woman, Susan, who I'll describe in a second, she was like, these can't go to Goodwill. So sometimes they take the stuff that people don't want and they bring it to Goodwill. And she was like, she was like, this can't go Google. These can't, like, I want to use these. These are so nice. So she took these double pointed metal needles that were in the center of the table and she made shawl pins for everybody. So apparently like her husband bent them and then she added like beads and stuff. And so this was the shawl pin that I picked out for myself. I just like that green. I think it'll look good with pink or gray, which I have some shawls of. I have a yellow shawl that I wear a lot. So I just thought it would match some of the shawls that I have in my stash. My collection of shawls I've knit. And then there's this kind of glittery bead which like drew my attention because they all didn't have this bead. They had other kinds. And so I like glitter, so I was just drawn to this one. And then I was like, oh, do you mind if I take another one for my podcast for like a giveaway? So this is another one. So I picked the only other one that had a glitter bead. And I thought, oh, sage green is really pretty too. I don't know. I like both, but I don't know. Since this is the first one I took, I'll probably keep this one and then do this one as a giveaway. Since it's something upcycled out of something leftover, I thought it would be a very appropriate giveaway for the Scrappy sweater Makealong. So this will be one of the giveaways for the Scrappy sweater along. And anyway, so then like the whole like it's a small world thing. So Susan made these. Susan is the mom of Stephanie, and Stephanie is Farmstead Knits on Instagram and is like one of the halves of the Between Knits and Pearls podcast and with Emily. And like, I would never have met Stephanie if it wasn't for this podcast. Like, I feel like when I started my podcast, I was like in a routine that I just watched the same ones over and over and over and over and over. And I feel like having started my podcast, I definitely like now like am more aware of like new podcasts and other podcasts. And so I discovered Between Knits and Pearls, I think because of this channel. And so I wouldn't know Stephanie, who doesn't live out here, but her mom does. And so I have connected with her and now I've met her mom in person and her mom donated this to the channel for a giveaway. That's two of my acquisitions, an upcycled shawl pin, very cool knit pick charm. All right, on the other end is a very luxurious indulgence. So basically I was feeling like some kind of way when Kyle was on his work trip to Europe. He was gone for 2 weeks to Germany and Czechia. And at that time he was gone, Moondrake Company had a pre-order for these like skeins that were like beautiful. And one of the colors were called unicorns and they were like slub yarn with mohair together. But I have actually a lot of slub yarn with mohair kind of collections in my stash and I just don't need more slub yarn. I've only made one thing with it. So I emailed her and asked if she would do just mohair. And she did. I can't. It's so good. I would say that that's pretty accurate in the camera. It's maybe even more pale than that, like a little bit more pale. Look at this. It is unicorn fluff. How I felt about unicorns before was maybe like no kind of way about it, but Matilda, my 4-year-old, is so into unicorns. So anytime somebody says unicorn, I'm like, and then it's like totally my colors. Like I love pink and yellow. So it's 70% kid mohair, 30% silk. And I love mohair. So, and I love this color. It'll be great. My thoughts about it. When I purchased the 4 of them, I was originally thinking the cloud bow. But now I'm doing a scrappy cloud bow. So then I'm like, okay, I've got 4 of these. I think that would be enough because that's 480 yards. I think that would be enough if I hold it double to do a cumulus from Petite Knit. So there's a part of me that thinks maybe I'll do a cumulus. That's been on my kind of radar. But also, I do want to knit another souffle because I do. I just want to knit another souffle, like the original. So I was thinking this in a souffle. So I might do that. I know I said I wanted to do either a neon or a black souffle, but you know, the stars aligned and this is what I have now, and it's beautiful. I don't know. If you had 4 skeins of this amazing unicorn clouds, what would you make? Let me know. I just feel, it was a splurge, like, and yeah, so 2 ends in the spectrum here, but free too, like an indulgence, but they're both epic. They're so cool. I'm so excited about them. Oh, my little stitch markers are gonna look so good against those. So anyway, really excited about that. I'm making tea right now because I've been podcasting and my throat needs a little something something. And for Sip Sip Knit section, I thought, oh, I could talk about my tea again, of course, because it's my making. I thought it might be more fun if Kyle shared how he makes a toddy. And then what did you say to me about that? You were like, something about I'm not drinking it or something.
Yeah.
He says it's not Sip Sip Knit because I'm not drinking it.
You gotta drink what we're talking about here.
Oops, he's too tall.
I'm a little too tall for
Yeah,
you,
back up, I guess. Guess you can see he's taller than me. Anyway, what I was gonna say is I said to him, though I've been drinking it at night though, watching TV. Yeah. We've been watching Breaking Bad.
Yes, we have.
And I'm drinking my drink and knitting my knits, and so that's my Sip Sip Knit, as I have been enjoying it. And it tastes chocolatey, but you didn't add any chocolate to it.
No, just the tasted notes of the coffee.
Wow. Well, explain what a toddy is.
Toddy is a cold brew system. I don't know if you can see that.
Maybe get a little closer to the people.
Sorry.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
And it is a super concentrated mix.
You're not in the frame, so you need to show. Wait till
I
you're.
don't know what to.
Just show what the end product looks like.
This is the container of the end product. And you mix it, you dilute this. You can't, I mean, you could drink it straight, but it's so strong, you wouldn't want to. It is a ratio of 12 ounces of coffee to 7 cups of water in the at-home brewer that we have. They make a commercial one that's like a 5-gallon bucket. We don't drink that much cold brew, but
is this what we use?
This is what you use. There is a felt filter disc. It's about, I don't know, centimeter thick. It goes in the base here, and then basically you put that in, plug the bottom with the little rubber plug, and dump your grounds in, 12 ounces or 340 grams of coffee, and then the 7 cups of water. Make sure it all gets saturated, kind of press the grounds down a little bit on the top, and then you let it sit for about 18 hours. I know some people have different preferences for how long. Some people go longer. I like the 18 hours because then you get a nice blend of the tasting notes and it's nice and smooth still. And then we enjoy. You can mix it with just water and have something without any cream or other flavor in it. Or what I like to do is mix it with milk. So just a fair amount of ice. I cover the ice up with the cold brew and then add the balance to fill the cup with milk. And enjoy.
It is delicious. It tastes like you added like flavoring to it, like chocolate or something.
This last batch we made was with Caribbean Coffee's Sidecar blend, which has one of the heavy tasting notes is chocolate.
It's fantastic. So when I asked him to explain it, I was thinking more like, I didn't know it was this, like, I didn't know he'd go so in depth. I was thinking like just the part where he was talking about mixing the cream and the coffee together. So Mom, if you're watching this, we're using it.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I don't have, because we used all of what came with it, is a filter bag. Makes the cleanup easier. You don't have to use it, but it does make it easier to clean up after brewing.
Yeah, well, that's still your sip knit. I'm not gonna have that right now. I'll make it. I'm in the process of making tea, so I'm probably gonna have a tea here, but I'll save that for tonight. Anyway, well, thanks for joining us, Kyle.
Yeah.
I did.
Thanks for having me.
My stand's not tall enough for you though.
Yeah, crouch and look awkward.
Thank you so much for watching this podcast. If you enjoyed any of the knitting content today, don't forget to like and subscribe. But if you are only here for the knitting content, at this point, there is no more knitting. It's just personal life. Since I last recorded, I finished reading 2 books. The first book is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This was part of the Books and Beanies Makealong with the We Share Needles podcast. And I kept meaning to start reading it, and frankly, I kept procrastinating on reading it because I read the Goodreads reviews and it sounded kind of sad. And I just didn't need sad things right now. There's enough sad things. So I was like procrastinating on reading it. So it was like the Sunday before the Books and Beanies book discussion, and I was like, I need to read this. And I stayed up really late and I finished reading it for the Zoom on the Monday. And I think what I would say about it, if you're feeling hesitant because you read that it's like a tearjerker on Goodreads, is yes, it is. I did cry about one of the stories. There's 4 stories in it, and they are 4 connected stories, and I did cry, but it was more like, it was kinds of stories that like make your heart ache in a simultaneously sad and beautiful way. Like it was like the essence of the word bittersweet, this story, where there's things that are hard but also simultaneously beautiful, if that makes sense. So basically the premise of the book is that you can go back in time or in the future, but you have to return before your coffee gets cold. And there's other rules, and I don't know if I want to give those away and like ruin the book for you, but there's other rules besides that you need to go before your coffee gets cold. And those rules, those extra rules, like one of them is you have to stay seated in this particular seat, are fascinating and add a little something extra to think about, like philosophically, about what would you go back and change and what would you learn. And just this, there's a lot of richness and depth to it, and I just loved it. And so there are 2 other books after this, and I'm going to read them. I did end up actually purchasing this book. This is not a library book. I try to use the library as much as possible, but I ended up purchasing it from a local bookstore to me called Powell's Books in Portland, because the wait list on it at my library was quite long, both for the Kindle and the audiobook. Like I actually am still on hold for the audiobook for it. So anyway, so I did end up purchasing it. And I definitely would recommend it. Okay. The second book I finished reading is a children's book recommended to me from my husband Kyle called Spark. He read it and he was like, it's a really good story with, this is all he said. He said, it's a really good story with good messages. And I was just like, okay. And then, oh my word, is it a good story with good messages? And like, it's definitely a children's book, but I think every human could read it. Like, if you have a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th grader, it's probably the perfect book for them. if you also enjoy children's books and learning from children's books, you should read it. Okay, so there's a girl, Mina, and her dragon Pixie, and kind of broadly speaking, without giving anything away, people underestimate Mina and Pixie. And so Mina, she learns a lot about her strengths, and although different from her family, and although different than what people expect out of her, and she finds out that she's really strong, and she's got a lot of gifts. And so there's this like self-discovery of like you can find out what your gifts are, and they might be different from what the world or people are telling you. And I think that's a very powerful message. And on top of it, it also gets at environmental issues, our environmental consciousness of like taking care of our earth and things like this. But I think it does it in a super non-controversial way. Like, environmental issues can be very political and controversial here in the United States. And so imagine addressing some environmental issues in a way where you're talking about a fantasy world with dragons. So it's genius, I think. And so, I did direct message the author on Instagram, and I was just like, you're a genius. And I think that this book should be a movie, and I'm definitely going to reread this book, and I just love it so much. I want a dragon named Pixie. Okay, I feel like so much has happened over the past 2 weeks that this personal section could become really long, but I'm gonna try and keep it brief. Me and Matilda have had so much fun, so I'll just share one thing we did that's new, which is, okay, just kidding. I'll share 2 things that we did that are new. So the first thing we did that was new is Matilda went to track camp for the first time. It was not an all-day camp, it was just like a couple of hours. It was from like 9 to 11, so just like 2 hours or so. And it was at my university's track, which was like really convenient because I live very close to my university, and so that I teach at. And so I just went with her every day to track camp and watched her try new things. And of course she didn't really know what track was because she's 4. And so she learned like what track was and what different events are, and she like renamed them in her own like 4-year-old way. Like she was calling like the long jump, she was calling that like the sand jumping, and the high jump she called it pillow jumping. So it was really fun. And she even threw a javelin. I'll try to throw in some pictures here because she really looked forward to it every day, and I did too. And it actually made me feel like I should have signed her up for some more sports camps than I did because it was so fun. Or that week is when it started to get hot. So then the next week, or maybe it was the same week it was the same week as track camp. So Matilda's made some friends at her dance class, which is really exciting, and they wanted to hang out, but it was really hot, and so we went to see a movie. It was like a $2 movie at a movie theater, and we have not been to a movie theater since before the pandemic. So I think Matilda saw 2 movies in a movie theater as like a 2-year-old. Like she saw Lion King, I think that was her first movie. And then she saw Frozen 2, and those were our last movies we saw. And like the pandemic happened, and we just haven't been to a movie theater. Matilda thought it was amazing. She was totally enthralled, and it was like an older movie they showed. It was Minions. No, I was gonna say it was like Minions, but it had Minions in it. It was called Despicable Me 3. And I've never seen Despicable Me 1 or 2. And so I realized while sitting in this movie theater that it was a little scarier than like I would typically pick, but she was enraptured and she loved it, and it was a good time. And she wants to go to the movie theater again. And so was my first time doing movie knitting. So that was the other place I knit. I knit this at the movie theater. It was really exciting. I don't think I ever really did movie knitting before because I was never really into socks. Like I had made socks, but I just didn't like make them. And I don't know, I really didn't bring knitting to the movie theater, which is wild when I think about it. And so Maddie from the We Share Needles podcast, she's sort of famous for movie knitting, and like there's a colorway dyed after her from Kimber's Creation called Movie Knitting that's beautiful, and she's like, I think makers have made bags that are like popcorn and things for her, and I was like, I get it. I get the movie knitting. I Snapchatted her immediately and I was like, I movie knitted and it was great. My only sort of like curiosity about it is like, I should probably ask her this, like, do people eat popcorn and movie knit? Because like I like a buttery popcorn and I had these like buttery hands, and of course I like wiped them off before knitting and stuff, but like I was sort of like, I think one of the reasons why I never knit at movie theaters, I like to eat. Like I like the candy, I like the popcorn, I like the pop, and so anyway, let me know if you movie knit and if you also eat. That's what I'm wondering. Okay, so last couple of things is like one of my friends who I made through being a professor, like, and who's become like one of my best friends, is Brenda, and she lives in Texas now and is a professor at a different university in Texas. And I've gone out to visit her in Texas, which is actually, I have an interview from the Knitting Cup. It was one of my first interviews on my channel. I think it was my first interview on this channel, actually. When I went to go out and visit Brenda, I went to the Knitting Cup, and which is her local yarn store, and I just miss Brenda. And so anyway, Brenda was back here in Oregon, and so we connected and hung out, and that was really special. Like me, Matilda, and Brenda. And then Kyle, Matilda, and me, like Kyle, Matilda, and I like hung out with Brenda and her husband, and we hung out at our favorite place, Pacific City, and it was great. It was so fantastic. I love the coast. I love the beach. It's so good. Did I knit that weekend? Not really. We were just talking so much. You would think I could knit and talk. I don't know. There was not much knitting. Did Brenda and I carry our knitting everywhere? Yes, we carried it everywhere. We were on the beach carrying it. Like, I maybe knit 2 rows that weekend though, but you better believe I carried that knitting everywhere. The knitting was like covered in sand. I think I brought my summer souffle when I did like 2 rows on it. But I think, you know, with Matilda, it was like I was playing with her, and actually like in the ocean, you know, I'm not gonna be knitting in the ocean. Or I was like playing in the sand with her. I don't know, not much knitting happened, but that's okay because we were having fun. And we're leaving on a road trip soon. So we're going to be driving across the United States. Not all the way across the United States, we're here on the West Coast, but we'll be driving from the West Coast all the way out to Wisconsin. So we're in the midst of planning that. It is a last minute decision. So it wasn't like we've been spending months thinking about this. It was totally last minute. Last podcast, people offered lots of advice on like road tripping and with a young Italian human, and feel free to, there's still time to share that. I have really capitalized on some of those suggestions. In the comments, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Somebody suggested making little like activity packs, like bags for each day. And so I'm in the process of doing that. Till I went to Target, we went through the dollar section and we like picked out fun activities, and we went to Target and somewhere else. Anyway, I got just a bunch of things. I'm making thematic bags. I'm gonna make a math bag. I'm gonna make a United States travel bag. I'm gonna make like a puppy bag with like coloring, activity, crafts, and I will, like, you know, Monday you get this one, Tuesday you get this one. We're not just driving the whole time to Wisconsin, we're gonna be stopping, so hopefully, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not dreading it. I'm more like super excited about it, and like really looking forward to the different stops we have, and we mostly fly places. I can count on one hand the amount of road trips I've done in my life. I just haven't road tripped a lot. So I'm really excited to see more of the United States by driving, and I'm really excited about it. So that's all, and it looks like the personal section still ended up pretty, looking at the timer there, it looks like the personal section still turned out longer than I wanted it to, so I tend to be really chatty here. So if you made it here to the end, thank you so much. Not to be a cheeseball, but just thank you so much for being part of this community with me and making a dream of having a knitting podcast and having knitting friends possible. I treasure it. I'm so grateful. Thank you. And I hope you have a really great end of July, beginning of August here. We are road tripping, and we will be gone for like 2 weeks. So I like to record every 2 weeks. It might be 3 weeks because of the road trip by the next time I podcast. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.